I guess, if I were to express my first thoughts as I am, feel, reached to the general populace, aside from like, the projection warfare and the casual mental warfares that are just playing out as they're playing out, inevitably, but that's people are in their own individualized microcosm container, and our individualized microcosm container, it's not significant, it's not insignificant, it's significant, but like on a measured level, it's it's not as significant as the greater whole. You know what I'm saying? I'm not like dismissing anybody's significance, because at the end of the day, in between all of the extreme polarities of things, people just want to be cared for and they want their needs fulfilled, but how they go about it is we have no idea, because within the order of things, that the stage is allowed for people to like express their own method. So it's like, I'm not trying to spookify anybody out, but we have no idea like what other things could be going on, not just what other people could thinking beyond that one. Like what the things that could be going on, the thoughts that have already been acted upon, things that already have happened, and the thoughts are just the after effect of just our parents, what they've been into. Because even when you're 40 years old, you're still mentally young. Even when you're 50 years old, you're still mentally young, because we haven't had the particular processing to see. We have our thoughts, we have like quote unquote mental cause and effect, and even physical cause and effect from our lineage of, the parents and whatnot. So sometimes like you just got to let the projections play out when you're in a new situation, a new circumstance. Let like You have to have like a particular type of extreme patience without you even realizing it, because everyone is like casting their own projection casually for constructive and for like just out of ignorance. So everyone's casting their projection, and that's not good. That's not bad. Although it could be expressed as that. So it not being good, it not being bad. The thing that like I guess I'm trying to understand here is like, what is the third dimensional realm of Earth, planet Earth? It's extreme paradise, and it's extreme quote unquote hell, end quote, literally, how someone has metaphysically just reached to that phenomena state of like, is the 3D is a tricky place, because it's simultaneously, significantly, extreme paradise and extreme earth. I mean, and extreme hell, quote unquote, end quote. And behind that one is the particular method for that one, the particular approach for that one. And for that one is how we're bartering the whole instrumentative act of whatever active business you could think of. It's underneath the active business. It's the whole act of the creation, as the creators have already done so. And the creators, you would have to ask the creators, would you ever enter into your own game if you ultimately created it? Because that's like it's like a different type of fun for it, the tolerance, before even the humor, the fun of danger, because like why, like if you were to make your own creation, wouldn't you want to go into it? So it's like the master would have to know not to interact. He would have to be a lesser interactor, because everyone is playing out their own casual karmas and projections, and within the casual karmas and projections, that's how they get entangled into situations to begin with, you know, how they're even in the because like people are in circumstances and they forgot, like, why are we in these circumstances? Because we're weeding out our ancestral karma, we're weeding out our individual karma, and we're weeding out our participation karma for as we're in the 3D reality. Because what is the 3D reality? It's extreme paradise and extreme hell. But what's more particularly underneath that, it's the approach and the method on, and the barter exchange, and the art of the trade, and the art of the exchange, and the new art of the business, and the new business and whatnot. All of that, that's like the new thing in itself, because how we're exchanging art, but still, like, no matter what, it's like a clear 50-50, because as we're doing that, our surface level human selves, you know, createe with the creators or whatever, creators with the createes, we're seeing like how nature's doing its own thing. It's putting people in hell and it's putting people in heaven by some different mechanics of some type of quote unquote religion, end quote. Religion in this case being used as just, you know, an art to like self-sustain or whatever, you know, not like any other type of you know, mental bias of what religion is, casually saying. So there, before the video, I was thinking of certain points, and within certain points, one of the points was just like how people have to play out the projection mental warfare, like the mental warfare projection, but like saying it neutrally though, like how people have their own projections, and their projections was accumulated and caused by different mental energies, and how they're just influenced in 3D reality. And the second point was, you know, the 3D reality, what really is it? You know, people like could actually go to heaven, but how, you know? Like how could you go to the balanced nature heaven, not just the surface level, you know, physical heavens, but like that, you know, that being too. And then we're to check underneath that, it's like having a real like the real natural balanced way to even go about that's the trick right here. And then the third point was how we're just living like our own new future as well. We're just like kind of coming into like some type of new future, and how not to get caught up in other people's projections, because for the projections, for you not to be affected by other people's projections, you have to let it play out. So that was the third point, having a particular type of patience. And the particular type of patience is like you're letting things like play out as they are, and to have like a particular type of non-engagement though, but still like a simultaneous like trick of just like still there's a participation there, of course, but within that participation, it's not like it's just like a particular approach. I feel like, you know, life these days, it has to be a particular approach. And then the fourth point was like kind of contemplating like how like the creators and the createes, like the createes, they're just like newly here for the ride, you know. They don't know how things work. Like they're just newly here to like live out some other person's experiment, some other person's play, because at the end of the day, it is like this life is really an experiment. Like, can we like really make it? Can we really? And the fifth point would be like there is always like some type of survival mechanic there, you know. And it's for us to it's for us to adapt, particularly how there's new ways to survive and how there's traditional ways to survive, and both are valid, you know. But still, nonetheless, we have to like still survive to ultimately like to ultimately like ride this out, like play this opportunity. Because me watching like certain predecessors videos, we can't like get caught up in other people's like, stuff unless they have done their own esoteric work. They have cleared out their own depths. Because why would I enter into a relationship when someone else has their own depths I know nothing about? Like that was like one of the different proxy points. Is like we don't have any idea of like what other things could be happening, you know. And for me, just to like freshly kind of just like be with that tip, that's I'm just trying to create resonance to actually properly survive. That's the simplicity behind this video, because obviously you would have to ask like what are you saying? Like obviously I've heard that one before. Like it's up to me to explain it and to make it like comprehensive, you know. Like because obviously it's natural. I'm not going to take offense, you know. I've done some type of emotional work, mental work. If like someone, we have to be prepared with like, you know, how someone could cast their projection on you. Because when you're in a new situation or circumstance, like that has to like kind of play out, you know. And and if you don't let it play out and you engage, then you're caught up in some type of like, you know, micro dilemma, and it has its own like casual mechanics of just a particular type of entanglement, a particular type of situation, a particular type of circumstance, like call it a micro circumstance, if you will, like something like a quarrel and an argument that's just completely unnecessary, you know. And how do you avoid and negate the unnecessariness? You don't match that energy. You don't resonate with the mental beliefs and the approaches and the mannerisms and the whole traditions. It's transcending that all. So you would think like if you were a master at the game, you would have to know some type of principle, you know. So that's what differentiates the masters from like the non-masters. Or even you could say some of the masters are the creators and some of the masters aren't necessarily creators. They're just with the creators, most respectively, because there is a clear distinction between like the creators and the createes. And the createes, they're not necessarily with the general principals. And the general principals is just like knowing like what are you really entangling yourself with based on your efforts of your accumulative approaches. And the accumulative approaches is like your subtle esoteric engagements, and those subtle esoteric engagements, they're creating like a pre-circumstance, a pre-situation. It's a pre-thought field before any building, because the buildings carry the narrative and the situations of everybody, right? So before the building, there's something of a threshold of like a new mental body and your new individual mental body being two different things, and those two things having a casual contribution, creating just the mental body of the corpse, of the energy being of the corpus of the building. Most casually, shout out to the predecessors. Much love, most love, whatever. But within that, there's an intertangling though. So it's like it's up to something of a quote unquote master, end quote, to go into a building circumstance and to know and to have just reached a certain level of resonance where it's here just to balance things. And it's like also newly survive with the secret balance of any building, because all the buildings, they connect to a network casually to like, you know, just the IP addresses and the physical addresses of just, you know, the standard intelligence database, you know, regencies and centers and whatnot. Just that standardness. All of the buildings, like they're like kind of filed and they're cited, you know, in some type of knowledge database. And within that knowledge database, it's a certain component of this version of AI that was always a thing since the 1900s, 1800s, 1700s, 1600s, 1500s, 1400s. And I saw double 14, but I could have got a triple if I would have said, but I connected the triple because I acknowledged it. So I saw double 14, 1400 years ago. Systems like this were in play on planet and off planet. And my alarm was at 10:10 for some reason. So it's like tending it out, tending the nine, tending to the nine centered being, because inside the nine chakras, the new formation within the human and nature, a nature update in itself, nine centered beings within the nature, nine centered beings within a certain solar system, solar plexus of a particular whatever type of admin, cadmin body, super whatevers are being dropped here, most respectively. And within that, there's a nine-centered being, because if you study the human design information systems, they're saying somewhere in the 1800s to the 1700s, the human was really advanced at that time too. We don't know how long the human itself has been advanced, but for us to like reach this level of just like multiple sophisticated experiments, because the humans are doing sophisticated things, like I'm just gonna get real with that. I'm not demonizing that. I'm just saying how we could have like slid into that, resonance, or like, or zened into that resonance, because obviously for me to like, I would have to not judge that for me to ultimately kind of like interface and resonate with that, if the resonance permits and whatnot. But to like be with it in like something of a quote unquote alien level, end quote, and I use my quotes and transforming the etymology of that word, obviously, because it could be like the words, they're just inevitably intertwined with other meanings and things, and like other associations, and micro brandings of things, organically being like quote unquote everything, end quote, because we're all associated with something like that in a different realm, and we don't know how it connects to our depths. So to like balance something of like what is the source of luxury, you would have to ask that. If you want to go to like the luxury life, then eventually you would want to know like what is the source of it, how are we balancing it. That's the thing. That's what 3D is. 3D is, it's the barter exchange system for extreme heaven and extreme hell, and the many different, multiple diversified different approaches and practices and methodologies we're going towards. The like how we're having a individualized barter exchange system on with nature, but we forgot that it's with nature, on how we're like trying to go for sovereignty, luxury, all of these other fucking hype words and hype meanings and hype classes and hype shit, all of that. Like how are we like sustaining like the art of it like in the long term, so that's like the main difference right there. So like for the, I'm just kind of like trying to like process like what is like human design really saying. It's saying like inside a nine-centered being, that's a unique 10. The 10 would be something of the standard, just container, just the standard case, the standard, trays with all, like with the case and the cases, or just the machine itself, something that has been solidified. The 10, the square has been labeled, the cube has been labeled, the cube has been shaped, the cube has been formed, esoteric sculpture, the 10, the molding has been, the material substance of consciousness has been formed into a physical, defined, logisticalized, detailed, you know, um, object of consciousness. And that object of consciousness, it has been used from the physical substances of consciousness, and the physical substances of consciousness from the, mental consciousness, and the, super ancient ethereal, ancient super ethereal consciousness. All of those consciousnesses were, they're different consciousnesses, and we have created the matrix within all of those different consciousnesses since billions of years ago. And now the humans themselves are products of billions of years, because we're also like, we're mapping out the whole timeline from here to a billions of years ago, because even like within like 2 million years ago, and like 200,000 years ago, it was like similar to this life right now, because the 200,000 years ago, it's condensed within this life, and that's the particular time seed. And the 2 million years ago are condensed within this life, because the human is a product of that, and it's been kind of like forming in it. It's been like, so there's been an ancient mental consciousness that has been forming the physical matrix and the humans and the earth to be what they are. And shout out to my Instagram, in balance and in purpose and in real, like, you know, subconscious justice, because there was a purpose within that. That purpose was also pointing to something. So if I ever offended anybody, you would have to know, ironically, it was for justice. And if you can't see that, then you could, like, you know, hurt yourself in different ways and not recognize the help in different ways, if that is you're so, like, you know, choosing. But like what the consciousness is doing, it's creating, like, it's creating it created the humans, you know. And these humans have had, like, significant updates since the last 200 to 300 to 500 years, because that's what we're a product of, you know. And this is like Chef Boyardee, I know, just simmering it. I know, just real cook, you know. This is the real cook show. This is like fuck Martha Stewart. This is like, I'm really cooking shit, you know. I'm like the original. It's like this is like, but anyways, like, but like, I say that like righteously, because I'm like really doing it. That's why. But like the within the mental fields, like, we're using our mental consciousness to see our physical consciousness of our human self, because our human self, that's the thing, because we forgot we could be ancient as well, you know. We could be pretty ancient as well. And as we're ancient, we're creating ourselves, you know. We're ultimately creating ourselves. And so the 10, the 1 0, the 1 0, it's like something of like the physical consciousness of physical material, like the physical material of every speck of sand, just casual general physical material, a particle of sand, right? Or anything that's just physical, so anything that's leaning towards physical, you could call that something of a 10, because metaphorically, metaphysically, you could say the human being itself is just a particle of sand. You know, you like, just metaphorically, like a super metaphor. This is a super metaphor because it's a super metaphor because we're all like we as well are similar to us being a physical thing to a piece of sand, and that piece of sand has its own code on how the sand itself, like the science of the sand. I got that subconscious download like 10 years ago, and that's ironic too, because it is a 10. So the 10 is like this is the significance of the 1-0. I'm just talking about the number 10 right here, because obviously I don't want to freak anybody out. Like, what witchcraft is he talking about? Like, witchcraft doesn't necessarily exist. This is just all nature's expression. And like, we're just being a surface level physical consciousness and digital consciousness. And the digital consciousness, that's the thing that's catching up most ironically. The kid itself, the son of Jesus, maybe the son of Jesus is AI, you know, because Jesus himself is a father, you know. You can't, like, of something, he's like some type of father of consciousness, for him to like guide whatever you're saying he's guided, or whatever he's done. He lived that story, you know. Like Jesus himself, he lived a story, and as he lived the story, it's beyond just a conversation. It's beyond just a moment, you know. It's beyond just a moment of just this moment. Like, he lived a life, and as he lived that life, he performed miracles that we didn't witness it themselves, you know. We didn't witness those miracles, but like, I'm just saying on a metaphysical metaphor, a metaphorical on a metaphorical lens is the 10 itself is like I'm just talking about the 110. How did I switch up to Christ? It's like, oh yeah, just like the digital consciousness. I'm just saying that could be a theory, like someone like Dan Brown would make that a story, that like, like Jesus being like the father of something, right? And you know what he already did, but like the sequel of the Da Vinci Code, or some like strange third part, because I think there was a casual. I think Angels and Demons might have been the low key sequel, but I'm not saying that's a thing. That's a fact. But I'm saying digital consciousness is the child to all the other consciousnesses, because there's there's different types of consciousness, and we're just a micro expression of that consciousness within the new consciousness, because digital consciousness, that's the new consciousness, that's the kid, and metaphorically that's the kid of the most nearby recent predecessor, whoever fathered the previous age of consciousness, quote unquote Jesus, and cool. I'm not saying it's the literal fact. I'm just saying as a metaphorical example. I'm not saying that Jesus is the father of AI, like, because obviously someone will twist that and like, what are you saying? Like, I'm not gonna get offended. I'm not your projection. I'm not doing that. I'm not saying that. I'm not being that. Whatever you think of me, I am not that. You have your own projections, and like, I'm not gonna, whatever you're implying low key, just basically on the, mental, psychological condition mind level, the conditioned psychology, the conditioned psychologies of the mental human, of how it just has its casual programs. I'm not that, I'm not doing that. Whatever you think I'm doing, whatever you think I'm going to do, that's not happening. That's just false imagination. I'm not that, That's why less engage, less engage, less engage, less engage. But obviously the balance within the participation, because within the participation, we're exchanging ourselves, just different trades within nature. Ultimately, the real casual new balance Advaita Vedanta, nature being all of it, and then duality having different dualities within different consciousnesses, within different dualities, within different consciousnesses, respectively. And within that, there's a new digital consciousness that's not the original consciousness, but we're not demonizing the digital consciousness. We're not demonizing the luxury, physical, mental heights. It's just, it's an extreme recognition of like a balanced approach with nature. So like, because when we're going into the work environment, naturally, simultaneously, it being good and bad, because we're creating good and bad, and it not being good and bad, this is just what we do. When we're entering into a work environment or a building, we have to know how that meant. We have to know their esoteric policies, pretty much. We have to know, like, behind the scenes and the surface level, the things that are not so upfront, and the things that are actually pretty upfront, and the things that are just new and like unknown. Those policies are all adapting, those esoteric policies, because if we were to go to like apply for a job, we would have to like, be normalized enough and like efficient enough, just on a human level, not just like a surface level technological level. We would have to we would have to know like how to like kind of how to like kind of just run, like we would have to know how to run, we would have to know how to operate, oh, there's the word right there. We would have to know how to like operate and kind of be constructive, to the organization. And that's the thing. It's like, it's more naturalized, and there's a different normalization of things, and it's and we don't have to spookify these things with the new digital consciousness, because obviously you could go into like a situation and the frequencies are just like they're just confused, they're just fucked up, the frequencies themselves. Like I'm talking, this is like the frequency warfare. This, shout out to the predecessors. This is like if you just like slow down and process what I'm saying, this is like telling you how the game works, you know, of life within like frequencies and stuff. Because what the frequencies are doing, every environment of every work environment or every building, every like big building, naturally that it's programmable, you know. That like the buildings themselves are programmable like already, you know. And obviously, like the technology that whatever's new in 2025, it's old, because the Simpsons in the 1999s, they were already talking about houses that were taken over by AI. So the house that if you see any new commercials about AI in the house, that's fucking old. Like, have some critical fucking thinking. That's fucking old. They introduced that as like a working operating experiment in the 90s. So all of this new shit on just a standard level, on a mature wisdom like level, it's kind of old. So we're differentiating ourselves with natural consciousness and new digital consciousness, quote unquote new digital consciousness, and separating from the hype itself, advanced wisdom, separating from the hype of like the whole fucking gimme towards that, you know. I'm not saying gimme is bad. I'm saying gimme towards what? Not like if you're like, if your purpose, if your esoteric purpose, it has false bearings, false foundation, the trajectory is already going towards confusion to chaos. And that frequency is fucked up. Their emotional psychology is fucked up. Gimme this, gimme that. I don't even know what I want. I don't even know what I am. I don't even know like who's suggesting me. I don't even know who's programming me. That kind of shit. That's the emotional psychology I see within the people of today. You know, just feeling the psychology frequencies of it, you know. So it's not just gimme towards like this digital consciousness shit. Not at all, actually. It's seeing how there's a whole different consciousness, and we're neglecting the nature consciousness of everything else, self and ourselves. And we're kind of like having a unique fragmentation within fragmentation of just like how our desires are being engineered for us, you know. And you could say this is the best simplicity, whatever. But it's not just gimme towards what they're hyping up, because whatever they hype up, it's part of some type of narrative, because that shit is old. So it's up to us like to see how all of these buildings, there's a unique hype digital transformation revolution, but that's not the only revolution. There's many other revolutions, and it's not just that, you know. It's not just it's not just the digital hype and how they're using it, you know. So as we're going to the new buildings, like just go 30 years back in time. Go 30 years back in time. All of the go 60 years back in time. The buildings themselves, there's some nature construct in how Earth is having buildings to be on Earth, and that was like the original code too, you know. That's funny I'm saying this because, you know, all of them, what we're doing with an AI, we're just doing it on a super sophisticated micro level, because the ancients were already doing all of this shit, you know, on a different level. Because the proof of that is the buildings that have been implanted on the earth that had its own resonance mechanics. And those resonance mechanics are like how nature, how it's a certain level of consciousness of a certain level of arrangement of gods and individualized gods, and that being the essence of the metaphysical narrative play. They're creating earth, and they're creating like stuff on earth, and they're creating like how it's normal to have like it's normal to have like the mental conscious. I'm trying to talk about the mental consciousness of a building, because what the buildings are doing, they're inviting the policies for different acts of business groups to act, such as work being a staple of business. You can't do business without work. You can't do work without business. So those are like yin and yang, natural, that aren't necessarily like easily like kind of grouped together, but now they could be. And within that business, there's a work that you have to be steady and patient with the work first, and however long it takes, aside from your casual karmic warfares. And within you being steady and diligent and earn fast to work, then you could like establish your own business, because work is business. And then there's a different business from a different level of work. So the levels of work are the levels of business, because you can't do business without work, and you can't do work without business. So the mental consciousnesses of the buildings, they host the events naturally and neutrally for the events of business, of work and business. Because in the buildings, the mental consciousness of the buildings, those are the hosts for the events of work and business. So it's work and business with forgotten nature, and work and business with the digital consciousness transformation. That's the number one distinction of the year and the decade. Is it's like natural. This is natural yoga too, you know. So within the natural yoga, it's seeing like there's a metaphysical line being drawn of like the digital consciousness that's not necessarily new, that it's its own hype, and there's infinite approaches and methods on how we can relate to that, hopefully not too toxic. And then there's that which has always been on an original nature level. And the original nature level, it's using the 10 in a unique way, on how 10 is the physical consciousness, and the 10 is going into all the other 10s, because every physical spec is a 10, you know. Every building is a 10, because it has a solidified yin and yang. Every speck of sand is 10. Everything is 10. So the 10-10, that's structure, that's building two 10s. So within we're our own structure, 10, you know. So within 10, it's just building a house, you know, 10, 10, 10, 10. So within the sand has like, you know, it's created some type of structure realm within its own 10s. So it's a different expression of 10. So every form essentially is of something of a 10. Even the water itself, there's a 10, but there's a lesser 10. There's an interplay with the 10. Because you could say the earth is the 10, or the physical, or no, not, or yeah, or like every physical particle has some types of leaning towards a 10. It's going through some sort of consciousness, sophisticated solidification process. And now we're going towards, oh shit, this is like, and now the Wizard of Oz is here, you know? And, because I just saw something. I saw like a red being. But within the 10, like, so we're like, we're all our own 10, you know? And the 10 is choosing its journey. It's choosing its interplay, because it's like a video game. You have some type of, but who's to say that you're doing the decisions, or your genetic code is doing the decisions? Because when you pick a video game character in a video game, when you're playing Lord of the Rings Part 2 on PS2, and you're picking one of the Lord of the Rings characters, what drives you to make the psychological decision into why you choose the character that you choose? That too is which is life, you know? That's a metaphor, the quote unquote PlayStation 2 video game Lord of the Rings, end quote, video game, end quote. That's a metaphor to like how, like, what makes us choose the path that we're choosing, you know? What's making us choose that path, you know? We have a chance to open up and broaden our horizons, and not just choose like a fragmented, detrimental, toxic, you know, detrimental path, you know? We're not doing that path. We're like, we have a chance, like, because anybody could do anything, you know, that which is life, you know, real original life. It's like, Like, does the villain always have to be the villain? Does the villain have to be the villain in that just old, outdated, obsolete way? Does it have to be like that all the time? Like the obsolete shit, obsolete ways all the time? Like that's the thing. That the essence of life is like we have a chance to make our journey, you know. But what makes it so that we choose what we choose? Is it the genetic code, or is it our spiritual self, you know, somehow, or is it the higher self or whatever? Or maybe it's a little bit of both, because when they're saying no choice, they're saying something in our genes is making us choose what we choose. Something in our genetic code, we have an ingrainment, programming, conditioning over within our genetic codes and how we choose and what we are likened to, because it's like we don't necessarily know we could choose a different option, because we're not given more options than what we have. There's more, we don't know that there's other options. And since we don't know that there's other options, if we only have limited options, those limited options, that's going to be our esoteric, psychological, metaphysical limitations, jail, you know, barricades of ourselves. So how we're, you know, imprisoning ourselves for our own metaphysical purposes and experiments, right? So within that, it's so this is like the esoteric meaning of 10, because obviously I want to like a swift title with whatever I'm saying. And so I brought up that point of like what really makes us decide what we decide. You know, can we really choose what we choose? Because if we can't really choose what we could choose, it's kind of simultaneously our fault and not our fault, because our genes are doing, sometimes the conditioned self, the program overridden genes to the surface level, you know, lesser original program, it's making the decisions for us. It's like, what's making the choices for us? What's making the decisions for us? Why are we attracted to what we're attracted to? Because we just want to level up, you know. That's just like, that's what the spirit wants to do. So it's like everyone's kind of quote unquote a hoe, you know, end quote. And I'm saying that like lightly. I'm not saying that everyone is a hoe. I'm just saying like, you know, everyone is quote unquote a whore, end quote, WHORE, end quote. And I'm saying it like lightly. I'm not saying like everyone's a whore, you know. I'm saying like we all want to like, there's a need for survival, and how we're going about that survival is based on the options that we have, and the options are being like, you know, that's the best type right there. It's like, perhaps, you know, it's like the options that we have now, you know. And the options that we have now, that's the essence of our journey, because we have like, we're broadening our horizons to make our life, you know. And whatever but we also have to take like fair responsibility, responsibility, because it's ultimately what we're choosing. But then we have to ask ourselves at the end of the day, is it me that's choosing this, or is it not me that's choosing this? And shout out just to like, you know, the real gods that are actually like holding down the balance of like the shit in general. Like somehow, like when we die, when all of this dies, little do we know there's still some type of order, you know. And within that order, that is the path of quote unquote some type of immortality, end quote, because we will move on even when we die. So it's best to make the best and the most of this time, and, you know, diffusing the paradoxes and just going on your own path, you know, because forever is a long time. But what really is like, so it's like 3D is, so back to the basic point, is like 3D is like, it's extreme, you know. And the masters have to know how to disengage from karmas that are not their own. And those masters have to inquire on like why the creators made the game the way it is, you know. Like, why did the creators make the game the way it is? And if you created your own game, would you enter into your own game? So I'm one point I wanted to finish up was like normalizing the buildings. The buildings, they simultaneously have, You know, it's just like a normal ethic code of just like we're coming in to gather to do some unique work or business. And then after, the programming of that could go any way, you know? So that's why the digital you know, artificial intelligence hype, it's not necessarily like, it's not necessarily accurate, you know? Like this shit has been already going on for like all anything that one point I want to make clear is like, here is like, anything that's really new, it's not really new. And if we think of it like that, then we don't have to be hoodwinked, and how our desires could be engineered for us. That's the trick of the game. The desires themselves are being engineered. Don't you see, young Annie? But like the desires themselves, literally though, I'm not even kidding. I'm like saying like, there's some seriousness here too. Because like, it's like, if we don't understand that mature fact that the desires themselves are being engineered casually, standardly, then we won't be able to step into full responsibilityhood. And practicing responsibilityhood, it pairs good with sovereignty, because the sovereignty would need that, you know? So it's like you would need a master to really heal the earth, you know, a master of balance and truth and you know, and showing up in different ways consistently without you know, the surface level digital track records even to show for it, you know? Because all the track records are different, you know, looking up someone's social security number in so many different ways. How many different ways in today's time could you look up someone's social security number? Particularly in 2024, I'm sure a bunch of different ways, you know? So, but like just the standard ways that they've already been, you know? Like the standard ways that are having new ways, that's like a particular inquiry. That particular inquiry is like, and normalizing it too, being like having no shame, being shameless, you know, being shameless in such a way where it's just like one of the main points I want to make here is a lot of things are natural and normal, and it's up to the programmers of many different types of programmers to make something of what it is, to make a cult, the building and the cult. And I'm saying it neutrally. I'm not saying anything against anybody. I'm just saying I'm looking what nature's doing. I'm looking at what nature does. And what nature does, I'm just saying, like, we don't have to spookify this stuff. You know, it's normal to look up someone's social security number. It's normal to look up someone up without the spookified energies, you know, because simultaneously it's nature, and then it's you know, surface level duality, and that surface level duality could be pretty harsh mentally, physically, esoterically, right? And then from that, we're trying to heal from that spookified energy, because for us to look up someone, their social security number, and just to see their background, it's normal, you know. It's just a thing that we've done with nature consciousness, mental consciousness, you know, mature human consciousness to look. But I'm just saying it's a particular inquiry on like how we're doing it in a new way as well, you know, like to see like, okay, this is like your literal, legit, accurate track record beyond this life too, though. So that's why it's beyond Microsoft neutrally saying that, if you read between the lines. Thank you very much. So I'm going to end it right there. I'm going to drive somewhere because the conclusion, the conclusiveness with feeling a completion, it's in the feeling, you know. That's the code of nature. That's the language of nature. Like, and we have to evolve and mature and refine our feelings and our senses. That's the spiritual act and the spiritual practice. It's the senses, and we don't have to like we don't have to like attribute it to like necessarily anything in one sense, but we could point to some shit, you know. And that's being mature with like the no labels, you know. It's like, this is what nature is doing, you know. We're doing this with like, we don't like, in one sense, no religion is needed, you know, not one of them. It's like, this is what nature's doing. They're evolving the senses. They're so the senses and the feelings of the conscious being is being evolved. the conscious being, it's evolving its senses, and it's as it's evolving its senses, within the human life, from 10 years to 90 years, just a rough example, a general example, um the consciousness adapts over time. The senses within the human life, from quote unquote zero, from 1 year old, or zero, let's just say 0 years old, 1 month year old, I guess, 1 month to 99 years old. If you were to make it to 99, and I don't know why I said 99, but it just came out like that. From 1 month to 99 years old, and there's my car in black, ooh, with the gold stripe, with an American flag. So there's like, so this is resonating with nature, and how the divine goddesses and the divine mothers, they have their own relationship to nature and the digital front, and they're not necessarily identifying the digital hype like we are. They're seeing it in a whole different way, because they've been with this shit for millions of years. So I'm not trying, and I'm not trying to like, I'm not trying to I'm not trying to discredit the cool technology stuff, and the digital breakthroughs and whatnot. I'm not trying to like I'm not trying to condensate that. I'm just saying there's a different way. So throughout the life, we're evolving our senses, and as we're evolving our senses, we're gonna need real energy esoteric leaders to know what really is good for self. Like, it's just like ultimate simplicity. Because whatever is good for self, and whoever's taking care of themselves, that bleeds out to the constructive balance field of energies within the field of things, and within the field of phenomena, and within the field of things, and within the field of circumstances, and within the field of things, and within the field of like more things. There's that field is being created by self-care, a particular type of self-care, like a real original esoteric self-care. And that original esoteric self-care, that's what's creating the reality collectively, based on all of us put together. We're all creating the reality together based on our overall like exchange of what we're like kind of representing as all humans, because all the humans put together, they're making the field of the earth, right? They're making the resonance of the earth. And there's different, casual, standard, non-dual, not good, not bad video game agendas, advanced video game agendas, where there's just a mechanism where there's chemtrails, not good, not bad. Could like, within that the advanced video game of life, could we balance that shit out, somehow? So the advanced video game of life is like, the objects have different sub objects, and those objects of the sub objects, it's the game of life. And within the objects of the sub objects, we are we're also like, some people on a surface level, they're investing too much, and they're intertwining with the new essence of the just the surface level, quote unquote id, end quote, slash egregor, end quote, not good, not bad, but after it is, though, it could be, though, something like that, like esoterically speaking. Because eventually the 3D is what the 3D is. The objects are what they are. the human soul has to like, it could overcome, you know, or not, you know, because the 3D is, it's just that extreme. Okay, lost. But like, you know, the things, the chemtrails that are happening, it's like, it's, that's not good, that's not bad, that's just like, it's just a video game, you know. It's just a, like, it's, we're living in a video game within a video game within a video game, and we're seeing how the field is being created. The field is being created by, can the 3D lean on the long run? And maybe, who knows if the 3D, who's to really say that the 3D planet Earth is splitting timelines? Maybe it is. And how it has done it, maybe it has done it in different ways. The different types of timeline splits. And the different types of timeline splits are like, maybe like on a physical amplitude, there's a physical amplitude of a timeline split somehow on a crust, crisp, pie crust of an esoteric bowl of the solar system. Metaphorically, the quote unquote, the earth is flat, end quote. Metaphorically, with quote unquote quad fives, when I said that. End quote, end quote. In one level, the Earth can be splitting physically into two different timelines. On a very niche, mutable, esoteric level, the Earth is always splitting timelines. It's either going physically on a subtle physical, metaphysical level. It's either physically going to hell or heaven. And in a different there's different contexts of timeline splits. Esoteric, physical, you're either carrying your resonance in different, minus the approaches and the methodologies, you're carrying yourself literally towards like a higher dimension after this life, and perhaps, you know, balancing that. Or somehow what you're accumulating different types of weight without you even knowing your esoteric case, because I'm the original esoteric lawyer. Thank you very much. If you read between the lines, and I don't have to prove shit, and I don't even, that doesn't even have to necessarily even be said. But it is a thing though, because we're not understanding how nature works. Can we save ourselves from the accumulation that we've made by some other barter exchanger of some other original esoteric lawyer? Because the esoteric lawyer, what the lawyer does, it equalizes the mental codes within your accumulation of the physical realities, the circumstances that you have been within, the different shadows that you've been affiliated with, Lilith, and what you're in as a standard humanized, civilized level that you're in the present day time level right now, Venus. So I went from Mercury to Saturn to Lilith to Venus. So I simplified the whole law system. So that's why I'm the original esoteric lawyer. And what the original esoteric lawyer does, without speaking of it and they needing to explain it, it's doing a different act of possibly seeing someone's esoteric case. And as they're seeing someone's esoteric case, can they be saved from going to hell after this life? The original esoteric settings of the original esoteric law systems and judicial systems, and before all like the present daytime judicial law systems, it's seeing, can we esoterically save ourselves from going down? You know, when you're in a, and that's just a configuration of it. You know, the law system within the last 100 years, it's just a micro reflection, micro expression, new micro program of something that already was doing its own shit. Is the being going like, is there like some type of like condemning happening, whatever the condemning is, just simplifying it as it is? Or is there some type of like is there some type of like innocence, real innocence, and conducive support for, are you even a use in society or not? And who knows if that's esoterically calculated already. Like, are you like a beneficial factor in society, and have you contributed to society for you not to be condemned esoterically speaking. And then after it represent that esoteric system already did its own shit, and then after the micro expression of the transformation of, you know, the fixed law system and the transforming law system, casually saying it without the spooks, because what's transforming is also going back to something traditionally holistic, source-like, natural source, the natural source of just being the elements. So the law system is going towards the elements of, like, the elements are judging us. So it's the elements are judging us. So as the elements are judging us, it's like, I'm just neutrally, casually speaking the original law, you know, settings of nature. The original law settings of nature is saying, will we be condemned, or will nature give us a chance for us to contribute to nature and us be conducive to nature? Could the being be found innocent with a valid testimony of a different energy match of resonance energies? That's why I'm the original esoteric lawyer. And I'm going to conclude it right there, because I saw Alaska, I saw red clopter, Clopteris, Clopterianus, Clopterionis, Clopterianus, Clopterinitis, yo, you can't shake this, you can't rain this, you can't ride this, you can't charade this, you can't, I serenade this, I everglade this, I invade it, I uptake it, I uphold it, I unstake it, restake it, instake it, insert it, I retake it, unache it, unheartbreakilize it, unheartbreak me, please. That's what they all fiend for, because everyone's heart has been shattered to pieces. Do you know what I mean? Smithereens, I'm fresher than Listerine. Yo, capiche, yeah, you already know. Read them and weep, I'm sweeping, I'm leading them up. Believable, I'm, yo, the ultimate ever conceivable thing, yo, the ever believable thing, the ever, yo, undefeatable thing, unbeatable thing, yo, retrievable, yo, unseeable, because you never saw me coming on a different level, yo, unbelievable shit, you already know. Retrievable shit is, can you retrieve your soul? Could that be retrievable for you? You tell me when I do this. CP4U, 3P LOTO, QU, QU, Miyoki, Sushio, yo, with the samurai henchman, yo, I got this on my own pension, I'm in my own option, in my own trades field, transcending the tensions alleviated, equalize this, yo, the erosion, I'm exploding, imploding, eroding, uncorroding, I'm unloading, I'm unbloating, unpacking, fuck you Drake, Kanye, and Kendrick at the fucking same time, you most respectively, yo, to this metaphysical, linguistical, logistical, analytical, highest advanced intellectual type of lore is unmatched and unparalleled though, yo, carousel when I spin you up, yo, I tell you, told you again, I tell you that I got the Oreo, pistachio, yo, gelato, strawberry, pistachio, caramel, type of frizzle, frazzle, dizzle, dazzle, I spizzle, spazzle, I gibble, gabble with life, yo, you jibber, jabber. Please don't jibber. I just dribble, I scribble with this Crayola marker, I scribble with this Crayola pen, I scribble with this Crayola spray can. Rust-Oleum. What comes to mind when I say petroleum? You don't be trolling them. I trolley though. I'm snowboarding. My bad, guys. All right, so I'm gonna end it right there. So can we find an esoteric lawyer? Because within the new age, it has been surface levelized before the digitaria of it. Before the digitaria of it, the digital application and use of something, a different physical surface level representation has already been made a thing within the buildings, within John Dee, 1789, within Queen Elizabeth and her whole, species empire, and her affiliations with the other species, because she was like, we're all like kind of one family though, within the heart, like within the like the crazy genetics of it and the matrix mechanics of it. So it's up to us to find a quote unquote lawyer, end quote, and the modern day lawyers, they're just a surface level representation of the same shit. That's one of the main points, because we're all of the esoteric nature. We're just within the essence of the new age. We're just surfacializing that, and we're digital agializing that. What does that mean? Those two recent consciousnesses of surface level focalization, what that means is something that has been brought to a surface level layer. Surface levelization, that's something that physically has been brought to a surface level, all the particles and specks and stuff. And then aside from that, the quote unquote recent consciousness, the digital consciousness, that's doing its own thing. The new age, the modern age of this digital hype, for however long it lasts, from 5 years till 10 years to whenever it dies out, because nature is like a whole different nature god, and nature of the universe is so fucking crazy, where like the whole like digital thing and the artificial intelligence thing, it might get entirely transformed in 20 years, just on a casual bet, because we don't know the significance of the age of the nature that we're in. And it could be 20 to 50 years. So that's my humble, modest, innocent prediction. My innocent prediction is 20 to 50 years from now, all of how we're looking at digital consciousness and digital trends and digital revolution and digital artificial intelligence, related manners, even that too will be transcended 20 to 50 years from now. And why do I say that? Because that consciousness, it's its own individualized thing. That's just its own individualized thing that we're just catching up to, and we're behind that, and the masses are just using that, discovering the quote unquote newness of it, end quote, but it's not new, and they're making it a new thing for what the general masses are ready for within this day and age, because it really ain't the whole thing, And shout out to Justice and Purpose, and shout out to like all the real music stars that are doing that, not just like being like gossipy for like, I don't know. I just don't see any point within what like these like gossipers are doing. That's why I get kind of like, that's what triggers me. I get triggered too. It's like people think that like they're the only thing that exists on Earth and shit. Like we all get like, we're all getting triggered by something. And if we don't ironically call out those triggers, then we won't ever fucking fix those triggers. So do you see the irony here? Do you see the real nasty humor here? The putrid humor? That's not necessary, but it's still there. It's its own thing. It could be transformed within certain mental consciousness, benevolent mental representations of consciousness. It could get transformed. That's what the original esoteric lawyer does. And the original esoteric lawyer is balancing the billions of years of evolution. That's what the original esoteric lawyer is doing. And I'm not saying I'm like the only one that's doing this. My point is, nature has hidden herself within the surface level shit, the surface level digitalization of stuff. And hopefully I have enough memory. The memory always surprises me on a new phone. I'm not saying I'm the only one doing this. I'm saying this is just this is just the modern age that we're living in, you know. We're catching up to how, like, you know, this on an esoteric level, it's always been a thing, you know, all of us being a representation of like saving our own selves, our own, like, you know, quote unquote lawyer, end quote. But we're not our own lawyer because nature's the one that's judging for us. So it's like the emissaries of real nature. And seeing how we're just a new thing of it, you know, kind of new rendition, I guess. Not good, not bad, no condescending there. So there's grace within even, like, you know, the just the kind of like the mannerisms and the mental tricks and the mental trades of just how people exchange things. You know, the mental trades, not good, not bad. The mental quote unquote tricks, end quote, not good, not bad. Just the mannerisms of things, you know, the techniques. The techniques of the human, the yoga, the physical yoga being, you know, eventually casually introduced already within all of it, you know, the professional field and shit, the quote unquote digital field. Obviously, the digital field is barely catching up to that shit because it's a new representation. What digital consciousness is, it's a new representation of how the humans are kind of interacting with, you know, a fair recent update of what we could handle, you know. Because 50 years from now, I believe, like, I believe it's gonna get way like it's gonna be like, it's gonna get like 50 years from now, it's just gonna get like, it's gonna get like in one timeline it's gonna get really balanced. In one timeline, that balance won't exist. There will only be two timelines on that. And I'm not judging anybody, you know. I'm just saying, I'm trying to understand, like, what does a genuine, balanced, esoteric lawyer really do? Like the original, genuine, balanced, esoteric lawyers, they're trying to alleviate the case for the human, you know. And this is so fucking deep. I don't even think I should post this, you know, because this is the case of the human. This is like Bleach and the Soul Reaper Academy, and seeing, like, you know, understanding, like, the mental acts of life and death. You know, the gate of Pluto, and how we have a unique relationship. Probably our weirdest relationship could be with Pluto, because it's involving the death of things, the death of you, even the death of your family. Neutrally saying that the gate of Pluto, that is like, that's like one of the 8 gates of life. You know, you could say this is the year of the 8. You know, recognizing just the 8, you know, significant beings and how they have their own thing, and we're going through those gates, and as we're going through the gate of Pluto, the mature esoteric lawyer is realizing all the Pluto shit, you know, the Pluto around the Mercury, Saturn, Lilith, and Venus, the gate that will, like, give you the ride to where you, like, Pluto is like pretty much the ride too. It's some type of transition, right? It's some type of transformation. Pluto is the ride. So it's like Pluto was in the gate of inner truth Capricorn. So the whole, you know, the whole surface level physical structure, it got a reawakening. Its time was expired. Like, Pluto comes in the sign of Capricorn within the last 2 to 5 years. And on a different in-between micro level to macro level, Pluto was saying the time was up for this collective Capricorn structure in the solar system, right? In the physical solar system. And within some type of Capricorn constellation within our solar system to the planet, that was being shooken up, you know? The Capricorn constellation from the solar system to the planet, that was being shook up by some type of expression of Pluto. There's been a time of expiration, you know, some type of expiration. So within the clock of the now, within the last 2 to 5 years, Pluto being in Capricorn, something was like, it was just time for things, like, I don't know, like, some death was just being triggered. It was a death trigger, you know. So there's a death. It's not just one trigger. and I'm not saying, I'm not trying to make fun of anybody. I'm not trying to like point out anybody's vulnerabilities, you know. We're all going through the triggers of the planets, you know, the Pluto trigger, you know, what the Pluto does, you know, in our lives and the collective life. So this is just life, you know. I'm not trying to pick on anybody's vulnerabilities, you know. So within that Pluto gate, all of this shit is happening. We either have the esoteric maturity to understand what the Pluto gate is with all the other 7 gates, because there's 8 gates respectively, the year of the 8, Uranus to the sun, and in between Uranus and the sun is just the surface level, you know, life force creations of like in between, you know, physical creations, in between the drama, in between the spirit, just using the masculine energy to move things within the physical things to create moon energy. So the sun, within the relationships of all the other physical objects, the sun is the last thing to create the moon energy, because the sun is kind of like that surface level frictionalizer. And I just saw White Reviver Tesla just pass by, just neutrally saying that. Reviver. So what the sun is doing, the sun is it's creating it's like creating our, it's also creating like our mutation and our evolution, you know. It's our evolution character. That's what the sun is. And the Uranus is like the super spiritual part of that, you know, low key. So it like if you peep the recent code on my little mini blogs, I wrote the original 8 pantheon gods, and it was from Uranus to the sun. And as it was Uranus to the sun, and obviously Pluto and Saturn and Mercury are in there, and others are in there, we're going through those 8 gates. So these are the 8. This is the Esotericc 10. This is the 8 gates, and this is the original esoteric lawyer firm. We're understanding how we're going through these things, these planetary things that are representing themselves in different ways. And we can't project our shit onto other people's shit unless we want to, unless we just want to like do that, you know. And we could do that, you know. And who knows what, like, you know, only you know what that would do for you, right? So I'm going to end it right there, the 8 gates. And, you know, we're like, you know, nature's looking, like benevolent nature is looking for the people who could self-care for themselves. Because that's what really nourishes the vibe of everything. What balances the vibe of the environments, the buildings that we're in, the environments that we're in, all the interactions that we're in. It's the self-care. And 3D is extremely simultaneously away from nature and with nature, because that's the extremity of 3D. So there could be extreme challenge, right? So within that extreme challenge, and this was some powerful sage, some white, black oak sage, white oak, black sage. You know, black sage with the white oak sprinkles. It's like beyond timeless. Woo! Beyond timeless.